with the
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
with the
Sorry.
science gal. The main fantasy he has of the science. I talked about when he had the sexual fantasy with the school teacher.
Yeah.
So he has another fantasy, and his one night I was just, or one morning when I was just googling around, I came upon an old episode of the Dean Martin television show, which was a variety show from the 1960s. Dean Martin was a big star back in the 50s and 60s. And anyway, he hosted this show, and what he would do is there was a two-story set, and he would start singing a song, and then he'd slide down a fireman's pole, and there often would be it might be a billiards table, and there'd be maybe some gorgeous woman who would start singing. So his fantasy opens up. He's on the set of the Dean Martin show from 50 years ago. He slides down the television pole or whatnot, and there is the science gal, who's this beautiful gal who reminds him of Valerie Bertinelli, who's a TV star that was big in my youth, and I've used her in uh, uh, a few iterations in my work. And he's drawn to her. She's there in a slinky gown. She's gorgeous, and they ask, "Well, should we be singing?" And what happens is they exit the set, and they end up in a very Twilight Zone episode. There's a Twilight Zone episode sort of called Five Characters in Search of an Exit, in which these five characters are in this thing, and they don't this round container or spaceship. They're looking up, and there's a light up above them. Well, it turns out it's Christmas time. This is a Salvation Army waste can where dolls have been dropped in at the bottom, and when they try to escape, they find out that they aren't real. And so, but Tom is aware of this. He knows that story, and so when he's lifting the science gal over his head, he says, "Don't go over," because he fears she's fall out and he won't find her again. Well, that doesn't happen, but he's also, in order to do so, since she's wearing a gown, she has to get down to her underwear. And I think it's in that scene, or maybe it's another scene, where he says, "Look, you wouldn't want to have sex with me or whatnot because you're too young." And she assures him that he's too old for her. So he's sort of like, thank God, because he this gorgeous young woman in her underwear, he's lifting up to possibly her doom. And so it's an interesting way to play with that Twilight Zone episode and bring it in a different way that deals with the sexual neuroses of this middle-aged man rather than just dolls in a Salvation Army container.
No, I'm actually quite interested in kind of like how like sexual relationships are kind of a forefront of this novel, like in a really kind of big way. And like,
well, it's a love story, but
it's a love story, but it seems like, I mean, it's a love story to the Helenka of the story, but it also seems like a love story to women, as a whole, kind of like your admiration, your feelings of sort of